In 1836, an old Spanish mission known as the Alamo became the location of a famous battle for independence. The mission was in the town of Behar, which is now San Antonio, Texas. At the time, Texas belonged to Mexico. But Texas was far from the Mexican capital, and Texians, as the people who settled there called themselves, had little regard for Mexican law. General Antonio Lopez de Santa Anna, the Mexican president, tried to keep Texas under his control by closing ports and taxing Texians. Late in 1835, the angry Texians rebelled. When the rebellion broke out, Texians seized the Alamo. Though the Alamo was never intended to be a fort, it was capable of withstanding attack. The 150 or so defenders at the Alamo included men of all backgrounds. Most were Anglos, Americans who had traveled to Texas looking for cheap land. Some had lived in Texas for years. Many had just come to Texas after the rebellion began. Folk hero Davy Crockett was one of these men. Crockett was a well-known figure of frontier life. Jim Bowie was another Alamo defender. He had gained fame for his skill with a knife. During the siege of the Alamo, however, Bowie was very sick with fever and on the brink of death. Colonel William Travis, along with Bowie, was in charge of the garrison. A number of the defenders were Tejanos, or Mexican residents of Texas. Many of these men did not want Texas independence, but did want to depose Santa Anna. There were also 14 women and children living in the Alamo. They were the families of some of the defenders. On February 23, 1836, Santa Anna led the leading units of his massive army into the area around Behar. This group of 350 men easily captured the town without firing a single shot. But his real goal was the nearby Alamo. The mission-turned fortress guarded one of the two roads from Mexico to Texas, and Santa Anna and the Texians both wanted to control it. Santa Anna made camp to wait for the rest of his men. He raised a red flag from the church of San Fernando to signify his intention to fight to the death. The flag meant his soldiers would take no prisoners and show no mercy. Bowie sent a message asking Santa Anna to negotiate. But Santa Anna's response was grim: surrender or die. As night fell, Travis sent a messenger to Goliad, the main Texian stronghold, with a plea for reinforcements. He knew that his small force would be greatly outnumbered by the Mexicans. Over the next days, Travis's fears were confirmed. Santa Anna's army continued to grow as new troops arrived. Eventually, the Mexicans would have about 10 times the number of Alamo defenders. Travis and his men were determined to stand their ground. But Travis knew they needed help. A few days later, he sent another message begging for reinforcements. The next day, Colonel James Fannin led 320 men and 4 cannons out of Goliad toward the Alamo. But misfortune befell the eager men. On the first day, their wagons came apart and the men were forced to make camp for the night. Fannin and his officers met to discuss their situation. The force was short of food and worried about being attacked by another Mexican army marching toward them. Disheartened, they decided to head back to Goliad. Supplies at the Alamo were running low, but the mission was well fortified with 20 cannons. The defenders also had a naval gun, which could reach as far as Behar. The Mexicans had no guns that could be used at such long distances. They were kept at bay for 7 days waiting for their large 12-pound cannons to arrive. Meanwhile, about 30 Texians from Gonzales managed to break through Mexican lines and join the rest of the Alamo defenders. The defenders had hoped for more reinforcements, but they were happy to have the extra men. 2 days later, in the town of Washington on the Brazos, delegates met to declare the independence of the Republic of Texas. The Texas War for Independence was now official. 11 days had passed since the beginning of the siege, and Santa Anna was restless. He was tired of waiting for his cannons to arrive. He also worried that the longer he waited to attack, the more likely it would be that the Texian reinforcements would come. On March 6, 1836, Santa Anna stopped waiting. He ordered his men, along with the 6 cannon batteries he already had, to form lines around the Alamo. The time had come to begin the assault. At 5:30 in the morning, the Mexican army began its attack. The Alamo defenders were caught off guard, but somehow managed to overcome the first 2 Mexican advances. But in this early fighting, Travis was shot and killed. Santa Anna and his riflemen concentrated on the south wall in an effort to divert the defenders' attention from his real goal, the north wall. He wanted to overpower that wall, from which the defenders could not shoot down at the Mexicans without endangering themselves. The plan worked. The Mexicans began to scale the north wall and break through the barracks. They captured the defenders' cannon and began using the guns against them. In the end, the battle took only about an hour. By 6:30 a.m., the Mexicans had taken the Alamo. Though victors, the Mexicans had suffered badly in the attack. Nearly 600 had been killed or wounded. Some of the defenders of the Alamo were taken prisoner, but Santa Anna had them executed. Between the fighting and those executions, all the Alamo defenders were killed. However, Santa Anna released the 14 women and children. Santa Anna also ordered the defenders' bodies burned. He wanted the Texian rebels to know that he would give them no mercy. Although the Alamo had fallen, the Texan Revolution continued. Just 1 month after the Alamo, Sam Houston and his men defeated the Mexican army at San Jacinto. They captured Santa Anna and forced him to accept the independence of Texas. The Texians ran into this final battle crying, "Remember the Alamo." The Alamo serves as a symbol of the bravery of those who fought for Texas independence. Within its walls, the memory of the heroic last stand of the Alamo defenders lives on.
How did the location of the Alamo make it important to both Santa Anna and the Texians and Tejanos? What effect did the battle at the Alamo have on Texas's war for independence?